Well, accursed, the end is nigh. It's all over but the crying. It's E-Day. Headquarters are empty. Ridings are bustling with GOTV activity. Hope and fear are in the air. Also in the air are the sweet sounds of Jenni Byrne and Scott Reid, here on this podcast as they have been every day of this wretched writ. So is Allison Smith of Queen's Park Today, who's joined us each episode to tell us what the leaders are up to. What's the news this morning, Allison?
Good morning, all. Yep, it is the last day I'm going to be with you. And frankly, not a lot to say.
I've been thoroughly unimpressed with you people for the past 30 days. And I look forward to ending this relationship.
Of course not. No. So the PCs, all the parties have election campaign sites. The PCs are going to be at the Toronto Congress Centre as per usual. The Liberals will be in the Paramount event space in Woodbridge. That's where Stephen Del Duca is. Hamilton Convention Center for Andrea Horwath, and Green leader Mike Schreiner is going to be at a Delta Hotel in Guelph. So they're all holding little election night shindigs at those places. Ford was, he was at the Congress Center less than 12 hours ago, rallying the troops, giving a speech where he really focused on the PC's momentum. He talked about how the party's uniting.
I bet Jenni was really blown away by the crowd. I bet Jenni really never seen a crowd like that before.
Well, I might have.
We didn't get an email boasting that there was 350 people.
I think Doug has amazing tour people that make the visuals look good.
That's right. The shots looked bigger than that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought his speech, at least the beginning of it, was interesting. It was a bit different than the other ones he's given on the hustings. And he said, never in my life has this party appealed to so many people. Talked about how his team's knocked on 3 million doors. So, I mean, some of that can be hyperbole, but like we've seen kind of in the polls, the PCs have surged in the last couple of days. They're doing better than they were before the debate. So, I mean, he's kind of right about that.
The Davis PCs were popular, as I recall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just for
the Harris,
15,
the Harris PCs were popular for a while.
Just for a couple terms.
43 years of uninterrupted conservative victories, but folks, it's never been finer. Here at the Congress Center.
If we parse the language, he just said he's never seen it like this. He might not have been paying attention back then.
In fact, I'm sure he was
positive.
not.
No. Handing over tinfoil packages in the park.
Oh, God. Otherwise, not much else to say. Horwath did a big day. She did 7 stops, mostly in PC ridings, kind of just giving the final push, like, do not listen to the Liberals in strategic vote for us. And the Liberals or Del Duca kind of doing the same. He said, frankly, if you know anyone who's voting NDP or Green, tell them to have a look at our plan.
That'll stop them dead in their tracks. Holy shit. I had no idea.
They had only gotten
HST on prepared foods, Scott. No, HST on prepared foods.
There we go. It's the macaroni swing vote.
For anybody who's only gotten to point 17 of the 19-point affordability plan, the last 2 are killer.
Oh.
I'm unfortunately, we're up for another 4 years of unprepared foods. No one's going to be able to afford prepared foods.
Ridiculous.
We're going to be preparing a province of preparing foods on our own.
Someone emailed me. Someone tweeted at me yesterday that if you buy 5 half cherry pies at Summerhill Market, they drop the tax. So I have a strategy to get around the Doug Ford re-election.
Well, no, but they debated this. They debated this for years, before they introduced the GST. They sat around the table and they argued about what was the threshold for food versus snacks. And so if you buy a dozen donuts, that's food. If you buy 1 donut, that's a snack. Food isn't HST eligible. So that's why if you buy half a dozen pies, technically you've bought food.
And fucking gatekeepers, eh, Jenni? Why don't you get someone elected who's going to put the stick to these people?
It's been great, appearing on your Prepared Foods podcast, learning so much about the
well, there's a big lasagna coming your way.
very small lasagna.
All right, Allison, thank you, and thank Queen's Park today for your work with us on this election campaign. It's been fantastic. You've added so much to our show. Really appreciate you getting up at this time to do it, and really appreciate the work you've put into the newsletter, which has helped me prepare for this show every day as well. So thank you very much. And where do people sign up for your newsletter?
Yeah, like I said, the newsletter isn't going anywhere. We cover even more stuff when the House is in session. So we are basically all year long with this thing. You can go to politicstoday.news for a free trial and to look at the British Columbia, Alberta, or Parliament versions of the newsletter, which also run all year. Politicstoday.news.
Great. Thank you, Allison.
All right. Thanks, guys. Don't say goodbye. Say so long.
Oh, yeah.
See you
À la
on the trail.
prochaine, mon chéri.
Happy Election Day.
Bye. You too. Well, guys,
Well,
4 years ago on E-Day, I was as defeated and despondent as I've ever been. I spent the day at home in the company of Terry and my sister Elise, who'd flown out from Regina to make sure I didn't hurt myself. People drop by the house throughout the course of the day, offer their condolences, make sure I was still upright.
bring
You
by
were
a
one of them.
casserole. How's he doing? Talk awkwardly.
Exactly. There was nothing to say or nothing to talk about. Jenny, you were having a slightly different experience. What was your E-Day like 4 years ago?
Well, I was in the war room for the first bit of it, doing obviously GOTV, monitoring GOTV, kind of what I've done in other elections. So because you can kind of watch and see what's going on, so you're getting updates from your phone banks, your paid phone banks, and you're also able to watch the numbers come in through. You're getting your bingo sheets in, and they're being inputted. So you're seeing who's voting. You can knock people off the list with the different software now for mobile door knocking. You're seeing where your people are out and what polls they're pulling vote out. So I did that, and then I did.
Can I stop you for a sec? What levers are you pulling at that point? If you see a riding that isn't getting its vote out, what are you doing at that point?
Yeah, so the only thing you can really do is change the phones, right? So what you can do is if you see a riding that's kind of lower turnout than what other ridings are, you can call and basically say, okay, well, you've got and I'll just say, Scarborough Rouge River, like that's not like I'm not saying it. Scarborough Rouge River, the vote's not getting out. Ramp up, move them to the front of the line in terms of calling. So that's kind of what you can do on E-Day. There's really not much more. There is stuff you can do, like you can pull out, you could move volunteers around, although that's a lot harder to move people when they're out doing doors. So, and then after that, I was on CTV for election night, and some very nice young ladies in the campaign office made me a Ford Nation bedazzled T-shirt, which I wore on election day. They bedazzled it. It said Ford Nation. It was like big and sequins and all that kind of stuff.
Wow, you got to eBay that shit. That's big cash.
That's an NFT, isn't it? You probably make some money off that. Let's talk about a couple of truisms of living through these last 2 pandemic lockdown years. Our ability to move about freely was severely restricted. We've been hyper-focused on our own health. And the two are related. Think of how you accessed your doctor or how you filled a prescription during those lockdown periods. Not shockingly, COVID-19 dramatically increased the demand for all kinds of digital health services, particularly virtual care. TELUS is our presenting sponsor. They created their TELUS Health business 13 years ago, and since that time, it's grown into Canada's leading provider of digital health technology and primary care. I'll give you some staggering numbers to chew on in just a second. But as a company rooted in social purpose, TELUS Health is aligned with TELUS's mission. That is, to use their world-leading technology in a way that's not only good for business, but good for people in the world. That means a seamless flow of health information and systems that allow Canadians the opportunity to play an active role in managing their health. I'm a pollster. I know how numbers can powerfully tell a story, and these ones really speak to the changing nature of how we get the care we need. In 2021 alone, there were 551 million digital health transactions through TELUS Health. What the devil is a digital health transaction, you ask? So did I. Well, it's everything from visiting your doctor virtually to processing your health insurance claims to enabling care teams to remotely monitor patients at home to your doctor managing your health through an electronic medical record and shipping medications to your doorstep with virtual pharmacy service, to physiotherapists and other allied providers processing e-claims so you're not out of pocket for health benefit expenses. Last year, 1.1 million more Canadians started using TELUS Health virtual care, bringing the total number to just a hair under 3 million. And when you add in all the Canadians supported by TELUS Health, that number balloons to 19.3 million. Hurley-Burleyites, that's more than half the population. TELUS' focus on how its technology supports Canadians across the full continuum of healthcare falls under their ESG commitments, environmental, social, and governance, which you can read more about in their sustainability and ESG report at telus.com/sustainability. Well, what do the leaders do today? Like, they must be squirrely. This must be an awful, awful day for them, sitting around waiting for the results, not knowing what are they doing.
Well, what did Prime Minister Martin do? What did Premier Wynne do?
What does Paul Martin do, Scott?
Wow, he would sit in his hotel room and he would call. It would be at. It would be in downtown.
I genuinely don't know, Jenny. I wouldn't see him during the course of that day.
I'd see him quite a bit.
He would talk to him though.
He would obsess over his speech. He'd obsess over his speech, right? So Feschuk and I literally would hold up in a hotel room. We would get a bucket of beer. That's exactly what we did. Both elections, get a bucket of beer sent up to us, and we'd sit there and we'd write it. And then
that's shocking.
Paul would call us, and we would write the two versions of the speech, and then Paul would call us and hassle us. And, just torture us, like just going over and over. What about this? What about that? Although I will say on the night we lost, it was one of the many awful and remarkable things about that day in 2006 was that he made two modest changes to his remarks, which is, I can't put this in proper proportion, Jenny. Like that's an unprecedented event. I mean, he wanted to work on speeches 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so for him to say, yeah, make this a but, not an and reverse the order of these two paragraphs. Like that was startling. So I thought to myself, Jesus Christ, the doors really are shutting on us here. But election day, when you're losing, right? Election day, it's like being an orphan on Christmas morning, right? It's just the saddest, loneliest, gruesomest experience, right? And it's coming. And the worst election day experience, I think I've talked about this on the pod before. Remember, in 2004, Terry made us all go to a spa day. And
I wasn't part of it.
Oh, my God. I hate it. I'm not a spa person. I'm a wasp. If you're going to touch my leg, we got to finish the job. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to the house if that's because I don't like being touched. And when it occurs, it's for one purpose only. And so I'm in the terry cloth robe and the fake slippers. And I'm thinking to myself, I'd literally rather be any fucking else place on earth. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the leaders have to sit there and bide their time. I don't mean to be a jerk, but, today's going to be a really unpleasant day for Andrea Horwath because, it looks like air is coming out of that balloon. My guess is she'll end up back in third party status, lose a bunch of seats. And we know it's the capstone on her career. So it's not going to be fun. And sitting around and waiting for all that to be confirmed is even less fun, right?
But I think it depends. I think it's personality based, right? Everyone's different in terms of how they try to get through a day where, they just want it to end. So Doug, I think last election, he just bebopped around at election day and did his own thing. So he popped into a couple campaign offices on his own, probably went to Perkins, held court at the Perkins in Etobicoke, talked to people then went and hung out with the family, probably at his late mother's house. Harper, 2011, for example, that's really the only election that I spent with him. I was always based out of the war room either times. We kind of set up a mini war room in Calgary in 2011, but he worked. He was prime minister and worked. We had a suite for him. He took some calls from people like George Bush, wishing him well. I remember, I think I've said this on the pod, maybe back when we started doing the pod, I remember sitting in my office or sitting in my hotel room, like kind of talking to the field organizers across the country. I put those Crest white strips on my teeth. I was like kind of, I was getting ready for the day and got a knock on the door that there was some stuff the PM wanted to talk to me about. And as I went in, he was talking to George Bush. So I was sitting there with my Crest white strips, listening to a conversation between Harper and George Bush, waiting to update him. So I think it really depends on the personality of the leader as to what they do today.
Right. So I got all excited last night. I thought, Jesus Christ, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? And I thought, I don't know. I will.
The Queen.
I'm thinking back to 2016 American election, and everybody assumes that Hillary's going to win. But all the statisticians are saying there's a percentage chance.
Well, not everyone assumed that.
Okay. There's a percentage chance that Trump could win. So, and then turns out Trump won. So I reached out last night to Philippe Fournier, who runs 338, and to Greg Lyle. And I said, what are the chances that it's only a minority tomorrow? And Philippe Fournier says 2%, 98% majority, 2% minority. And it's really only if there's a complete and massive failure of the polling world. And Greg Lyle is more optimistic for the opposition parties. He says a 4% chance of a minority. So there's no chance.
No, I don't think so. Here's a funny story.
Of a minority.
Listen, I think that's the case. So funny story. So apparently yesterday, Nick Kuvalis had funeral flowers sent to Bob Lipinski and the Ontario Liberal War Room.
I know it's funny, but it's a cock move. Come on.
Listen. So let me finish by saying, apparently Bob Lipinski then resent them over to the NDP War Room. He regifted them to the NDP.
He recocked it. Nice.
Well, I mean,
but I did. Listen, I know it's a cock. Like, you've never done a fucking cock move, Reid.
Me? No. I'm gracious and elegant. Come on.
I'll give you a nicer story.
I'm not really. It's Nick.
I'll give you a nicer story about Nick Kuvalis.
When Eve Adams crossed the floor to the Liberals,
yeah,
I sent Jerry Butts flowers to thank him.
Yeah.
Well, you were prophetic.
Nick called me on this day before any Liberals did 4 years ago. Nick called me at around 6:00 at night. Just wanted to check in and talk through. And it was really nice. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, Nick's a good guy. Don't get me wrong.
Nick is a great guy.
Nick is a great guy. And boy, do he and Corey deserve all the credit in the freaking world. Just all the credit. But
so what that tells me, Scott, the percentage chances of a minority, is that only Del Duca has 2 speeches tonight, right? Only Del Duca is unsure of how the result affects him and the party going forward.
Yeah, the premier probably wouldn't have one. You might go through the motions of having, you probably wouldn't even go through the motions of having it. You'd almost be worried about jinxing yourself if you're Ford, his team. But, yeah, Del Duca will. If for no other reason than just to amuse yourself and rally yourself, his team will want to write some remarks that say, well, we pulled off, held him to a minority and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I think that...
Yeah, but there's a big difference for them if they're second or third. There isn't really for the NDP.
That's right.
Any difference. There's a big difference for them if he wins his seat and doesn't win his seat.
But I think there's only going to be one speech, David. He came out very forcefully yesterday and said, regardless if I win my seat or not, I'm not going anywhere. So I predict that tonight, regardless, he's going to have a very boisterous, I'm staying, I'm fucking here, I'm going to fight Doug Ford. But I'm not sure that's really not his that's not going to end up being his choice. That will be the party whenever.
Let's save that for tomorrow. Because I think there's lots to chew on there. But I think you're right. I think there's I think there's 2 speeches for him. I think there's probably 2 speeches for Andrea also. I mean, I think it's a little bit different. And the big question mark is, does she have a paragraph that gets inserted or not that says, and this is my last campaign as leader? And I just don't know if she makes that call this evening or whether she waits and does it in a few days. And it's really just a matter of personal preference, right?
Well, if she doesn't say it tonight, she won't be the first person in her party to say it.
I don't think it has to be said with venom, though. Like in this, I think it's such an assumed thing that and which in some ways is even worse, right? People would just talk about it as though it's an established fact, which is probably a good argument as we talk it through for getting it out of the way tonight and being seen to be taking control of your own future, as opposed to having people talk about you like you're already, at the funeral home.
Yeah. While there has been a recent pause in price escalation, first-time home buyers remain frustrated that they will never get the keys to their own home. With the provincial election this week, voters will need to consider what party can help them achieve the Canadian dream of home ownership. Our original sponsor, the Ontario Real Estate Association, says that while all the major political parties have included some solutions to the crisis in their platforms, what the newly elected government does to prioritize choice and affordability and how quickly they act moving forward will be critical. A recent poll conducted by Abacus Data on behalf of OREA says that 73% of Ontarians think that making housing more affordable should be a high priority for the Ontario government, with 84% saying that a party's ideas on solving the housing affordability crisis could be an important factor when deciding who to vote for on June 2nd. There are bold solutions to get the housing crisis under control that, if enacted, would help create the next generation of Ontario homeowners, including providing more help for first-time home buyers, building more homes, making home ownership more affordable, protecting consumers, and leveling the playing field. We are at a turning point. Whether they are millennials struggling to enter the market, growing families looking for more space, or downsizing empty nesters, it's clear Ontarians want action when it comes to the housing affordability crisis, and the next Ontario government needs to be prepared to respond. At the end of the day, everyone deserves a place to call home. Read OREA's plan at ahomeforeveryone.info. All right, let's be positive. Let's end on a positive note. Let's end on a positive note. Let's go through each of the leaders and what's something that each of them can feel positive and proud of about this campaign. Let's start with Mike Schreiner.
Well, listen, I think that he can feel positive about he's obviously got traction. Some of the polls are saying that some Liberal voters are going to him. I don't think he's going to win Parry Sound-Muskoka. I think the Tories keep that. I think we keep that. But I think you can feel positive that you were in the running, even though it's really because the Liberals don't have a candidate there. I think you can feel positive about that. Plus, he's keeping his seat. It's almost party leader having one seat. And nothing else. It's almost like an independent winning that one. Independents generally win like one election, and then they don't win. They don't win past the second one. So I think the fact that it looks like, I think it's conventional that most people in their seat projections are saying that Schreiner keeps Guelph. I think that's very positive for him in the Ontario Green Party.
Yeah, for sure. I think he had a really good debate.
Yeah, that would be my thing.
I think he had a really strong debate. Right. And I think he, for the people watching, they would have seen an impressive person with a wide range of knowledge about issues and some real passion about the things that he cares about, and an articulate guy and an evidently good guy. So I think he really put his best foot forward in the debate. I think he did well. Scott, you agree?
Same thing. That would be my choice. He put himself on full and positive display in the debate. And for those watching and among the media and other observers, he established himself as a person that people say, well, I want that guy in the ledge. I don't know about the Green Party and how all that plays out, but I want that guy in the ledge. And I think that's an achievement.
Yeah. All right. Del Duca, stay with you, Scott. What's Del Duca got to be proud about in this campaign?
Well, I think he's going to bring his party back to back to official opposition. So I think he can feel good about having reclaimed seats that had fallen to the NDP. And that's a critical gain. I mean, because if you had 2 elections in a row where the NDP, say, took some of those seats again, like if they'd re-won, and acting like the election's over. But if, for example, they reclaim Kingston, if, for example, they reclaim some of those urban seats in 416 that are natural Liberal ridings, then you'd be saying to yourself, well, we no longer know what the brand equates to for the Liberals in Ontario, and that would be trouble. And he appears to have reversed all of that. He appears to have said, okay, that was an anomaly that was based on a sweep election, throw the bums out kind of election, all that sort of stuff. And, he's built the party back up, so it's got an infrastructure, and it remains in a position where it can take a real tumble in the future. So all of that is, if your job is, you obviously want to win, but at minimum, your job is to repair the party, put it back into striking distance of government, and it looks like he's done that. So that's no small feat, because we left them with nothing but ash and shoelaces, David.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That would be my answer too. I thought he acquitted himself well throughout the campaign generally, but I think the big accomplishment is putting forward a campaign that was professional enough and substantive enough and credible enough that they are, in the hunt for official opposition status, and are almost certainly going to beat the NDP in popular vote, and that was certainly not a given on the day after the election last time. And so, for bringing the party back to a minimum a position of credibility, I think he deserves a lot of credit. Jenni, what do you think?
Listen, yeah, I think that's what he should be happy about. I'm not as glowing as what you guys are. I think 6 to 8 months ago, a year ago, I think that if you looked at the polling, Del Duca had a real chance of becoming the next premier of Ontario. So I think that decisions that they made in terms of policy and what have you probably have led them to where they are now. So do I think it looks like, because it appears that if you look at the public polling, the NDP are collapsing somewhat. It does look like they're going to get official party status back. I don't think there's going to be a lot of, it doesn't look like there'll be a lot of daylight between the NDP and the Liberals. So I think the Liberals will eke out more seats. I'm not sure how many more than the NDP. That being said, for all the reasons that you said, he could be happy with that, but it's all going to come down to whether he wins his seat. I'm just, the party a hell of a lot better than I do. I'm like a spectator that the pundit class on the Ontario Liberal Party, but I don't see a scenario where he will be the leader going into the next election if he does not win his seat. So he may get through tonight, he may get through next week, and he may get through the next couple months, but I do not see a scenario where if Stephen Del Duca loses his seat, he will be afforded the luxury of staying on as the leader of the Liberal Party in the next election.
I think Reid is going to springboard off of this platform into the Liberal leadership.
Well, it's the conventional path, right? People usually go from podcasting straight into government.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's all right. Jenni, what does Horwath have to feel proud about this campaign?
This one's a tougher one, eh? Like, she's going to go down in seats. She's looking like she's going to go down in popular vote. It's her fourth kick of the can. So as we've talked about, it looks like it's going to end up being her last election, whether she wants it or not. I guess I could say the campaign has stayed feisty. There's not been a morose feeling around the campaign. If you look at the Liberal campaign, there has been a feeling of like not doom and gloom, but they're not the happiest campaign. Last week we were talking, they seem very much in chaos, like a campaign where there's nothing that goes, there's absolutely zero that is going right. The NDP have, even on bad days, they've kind of shaken it off, and that could be an experience. I assume the people around Horwath, they've been in the trenches together and for many campaigns, and we know that helps. You guys have worked on lots of campaigns together. We are most comfortable with the people that we've worked on campaigns with before. So I think that if I can say anything about the campaign, it is the feistiness of the NDP. They are not walking into this today like having not thrown everything they feel that they could possibly throw for E-Day.
Yeah, I was impressed, Jenni, to build on that. I was kind of impressed with the way she came back from COVID and with the way the party came back from her COVID thing, because, when they were trending down, it was clear that the result was not going to be what they'd hoped. They were trending down vis-a-vis the Liberals, and then she got COVID, and the arse could have fallen right out of that whole thing at that point. I've seen campaigns unravel through things like that. And yet she came back and she had energy. She looked almost a little bit happier than she'd looked before. Scott was very happy about the music and the dancing at their events.
Well,
and I think they put on a more credible last 10 days than they might have.
I agree with all that. I would say there's one other thing, and perhaps it owes more to her time as leader than this specific campaign, and that is she brought the party to second place. She brought the party to official opposition, and it looks like they may lose that standing. But there's no longer anything unnatural about that. Like, it had been a generation. It had, obviously Ray had won government and official opposition, but it had been that long. And, she left the party in a position where they can legitimately say to themselves, well, we're at least competing at that level every time. And so, they may take a step back in this election. That makes the next one maybe all the more important because she's sort of left them in a spot where they can say, well, that's not like a hopeless cause. That's a viable possibility and ought to be each and every election. And that's not nothing.
Right. All right, Jenni, what does Ford have to be proud of this election?
Oh, well, I think that's the obvious one. I think he could be proud of the fact that he's an incumbent government going into a re-election where it's looking like if at the bare minimum he'll keep the same number of seats for a majority or pick up some, might lose some, but pick up some elsewhere. They've ran an extremely disciplined campaign for the last 30 days. Doug himself has been very disciplined. I think that probably the most undisciplined thing that the campaign probably did was do the election, the night before the election rally. And that was probably because things were going well and Doug was insistent on it. So the campaign is like, yeah, fuck whatever. Just give him his fucking rally. Let him do it. So I think that he has a lot to be proud of in terms of where they're heading into today. Like if we're talking just about the election.
Yeah, Scott.
All of that is absolutely true. No question. I think there's something even more significant. And by the way, I wonder, like, it feels like they are rolling, right? Like, so I wonder if we're even missing a last beat. Like, I wonder, people are starting to speculate 85, 90 seats. Like, I wonder if this might turn out to be a mammoth thing. I wonder if they end up with 43, 44% of the vote tonight because of demo, because of vote turnout, like all that stuff. Like, I mean, this could be a whale of a victory. And, but my thing that I would say about Ford is that, he's completed a wholesale transformation of his political identity and his relationship as a politician with the province. 10 years ago, he was the bully brother to, the spectacle of Rob Ford, who looked like he was a troubled person, but a lovable, well-intended sort of Chris Farley of a mayor. And he looked like he was the big, hard-ass brother, bully, loudmouth. Now he's Uncle Doug. Now he's the guy that people say, you know what, even when he screws up, he really tries to do the right thing and he's well-intended. And that is a startling transformation. You usually don't get to refix the way people look at you and define you in politics. And he's done that. And it sets him up for this next term. He's got unbelievable political capital with the province of Ontario. And, he can make real good with that.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll feel proud about it, but I would certainly, given my desperate need for public approval, I would feel very satisfied with the fact that people are voting for him. And that he's going to be the premier because people are attracted to his leadership, and lots of people. The margin of victory is a vote for him personally, which has got to feel pretty satisfying for him, and is a direct result of the transformation that you talked about there, Scott. All right, guys, blessing and curse on the last day of the campaign.
Blessing for all my friends in all parties. Much more the PC candidates and friends. The blessing is it's finally over. It's election day. Get your fucking vote out, and will in what 16 hours, 15, 16 hours, we're gonna know the results. So good for you. It's been a long month.
Scott, blessing or curse?
Same. We all go partisan here on election day, right? I want to send it a blessing to the Liberal campaign. You got a few hours left to make all the difference in the world. The difference between second and third is the difference between something and absolute bonfire ash. And so I just think go get it done. Get it done in Vaughan Woodbridge for the leader. He deserves it. Get it done. in terms of the province-wide and end up with official opposition. And because David and I spoke at a fundraiser and I think genuinely touched an unbelievable number of people in Eglinton Lawrence. Get it done for Jenni Byrne. We wanted to win it here in my home.
We lit a grass fire in that place.
I think we kicked off this campaign with an absolute grenade of energy, and I just think, bring it home, Arlena. We did all we could. Now it's up to you.
Don't blow it.
Yeah.
My blessing goes out to Kathleen Wynne. There'll never be an Ontario election day where I don't think about you and what could have and should have been. So on this early morning, here's to you, darling. See you on the trail.
Beautiful.
All right, everybody. That's it. Tomorrow we come back to dissect the results, and then this long trail is over. I've fucking enjoyed talking to you every morning. I haven't enjoyed the hour. I haven't enjoyed every day of the campaign, but I've certainly enjoyed talking to you. And Jenni, Scott's not busy, but Jenni in particular, thanks for making the time to do this. Throughout it, you've added so much to the show.
It's amazing. This is a bit. This is. I love talking to you guys. If I'm going to get up at 5:30 every morning, it's because I want to talk to you guys.
Well, I'm going to miss you both. I'm going to be back to talking to the milkman because, as you know, I am up at this hour, and as Herle points out, I got nothing to do with myself. So.
You got to keep an eye on the milkman. All right, everybody. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, TELUS. Thank you to Aurea, the Ontario Real Estate Association. Thank you to Greg Lyle and Innovative Research Group. Thanks to Allison Smith and Queen's Park Today. And thank all of you for listening. And by the way, there's a team behind this, Air Quotes Media, who've been up at this hour every day as well, making sure that this process goes smoothly, that the engineering is done, and that the show is out by 8 o'clock for you. So thank you to the Air Quotes Media team, Jill Engelman, Michael Spitali, David Rosenberg, Jody Calero, and Metal Donkersgood. All right. See you tomorrow morning for the entrails.